Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder of the Bobby White Foundation, and I'm here again with...
Hi, I'm Bonnie Snyder. I'm your co-host.
Yay! Just a little bit of a heads up. This may be a little bit more of a difficult show today.
Somber.
Yes, somber. Yeah,
It's somber.
I guess that's a good word. But like we always, really want to do, because like I said, we don't get to roll the credits at the end of our show. So we always want to thank WeBeam TV and John and Rob and Cage and Dylan, and so that we can do this every week and bring all this information to you and let you know you're not alone going through this process. And we're here. We're going to focus a little bit on this show with because of the upcoming holidays and things like that. But we also want to thank one of our new sponsors, the Hilton Garden Inn, for stepping up and sponsoring us. And we want to thank you guys for supporting us also. Tuning in every week or whenever you can to watch our show. And you can help us out several different ways too. We have our Kindest page, and you've been really good talking about that the last few shows. Do you want to?
Why, thank you. So we have our Kindest page, which is a way that allows you to provide your support for the show. When you link onto the page, there are different levels of donations that you can do. There's also a custom tab that allows you to put in, an amount that you're comfortable with. So anything from, hey, if you just have 50 cents to give and you want to give us 50 cents, that works, all the way up to if you want to sponsor the show for a year and do, $25,000. That
would be
we'll
super.
love that. We'll love that too. But in all seriousness, we are absolutely grateful to our production team here that allows us to bring the show to you. But at the same time, having support from the community and those who tune into the show for whatever your personal reasons are for tuning into the show. We welcome that support.
Community support, your support, it's crucial to us being able to bring this information to you, and just informal, just the way we kind of just sit here and chat every week.
Yeah,
who knows what's going to happen.
Really?
Like the air conditioner turned on. So, but that's okay. We'll just talk a little bit louder till it shuts up. Shut off.
There it goes.
So anyway, see, that's just the way we have to roll around.
I love our studio and, the little family that we have here and the things that happen that we're like, okay, that wasn't scripted, but, just plain up. Yeah. But continuing right along with the noise and the other stuff that, we deal with when we're having fun doing what we're doing, our T-shirts. Tammy is...
I'm sporting one of them.
Sporting our first design, the V-neck style, which is our women's, the women's cut, little, fuller, because, I shouldn't say fuller. I didn't mean to say fuller. It is more form-fitting.
Form-fitting.
I was like, what? I just said fuller to women.
Yeah.
Ladies,
That QR code down there in the lower right-hand corner, that'll take you directly to that web page where you can order directly from there, and they're going to be adding different color T-shirts, and
nice.
Hopefully I'm going to see about, because winter's coming, and we get chilly here in Florida, and I like long sleeve T-shirts, so I'm going to see about getting some tanks and some long sleeve T-shirts.
Or you know what else? Because I am a huge fan of hoodies.
Hoodies too, yes, especially this time of year. So I've already talked to him about the different colors, and she's working that out. So she's going to see which colors work best with our designs, and so then so we're slowly building on that. And we do have some of these in stock at the foundation office, so if you want to get a hold of me and see if we have the size that you're looking for available at the foundation office, I always have a little bit of inventory.
Yeah, I mean, they're a comfortable T-shirt. I love them. You know.
I wear 'em almost every day, not quite, but by the time we get the next designs, I have enough for every day of the week.
Pretty much, you know. And you know what's funny is I find doing that between T-shirts, like when I'm not in regular clothing. Yeah, when I go home, it's straight out of my work clothing into my comfort clothing. And you're right, it's like I can have a T-shirt for every day of the week. And
Well, and with me, a lot of times, if I'm going anywhere to, a networking event, or, that's pretty much all I do if I go anywhere, or even going to any other kind of event, it's like, Bobby White Foundation shirt, and yeah. So we'll have them for almost every day of the week here soon.
being on vacation, it's I like wearing whether it's our foundation shirt or something like that has what is that all about? Like what is that foundation? Oh
Let me tell you.
People are like, wait a minute, you do that when you're on vacation? And I'm like, yes.
Oh, I remember when you first went, right after we first got the firt ones, and you were flying somewhere, and you're like, I'm wearing my T-shirt on the airplane. I was like, sweet.
Yeah, standing in line, it's like you can feel people like, because you have the foundation, is on the back, and people staring at you like, what is this?
that?
Or, there's another organization, it's a youth coalition, and the front of the shirt says, ask me how I, and you were like, asked you what? And then I turn around and I show them the back, and it has a logo. I mean, great conversations, starters. So yeah, standing in the line at TSA as you're checking in, standing in line at the grocery store. People ask, hey, what is Bobby White? What is that foundation? Oh, let me tell you all about it. And here's a plug for the show. Like, so you're doing the foundation, you're doing
Do the plug for the show, yeah.
And everything else that we, are involved with as we bring this message.
So we have a lot of holidays coming up. We still have some events coming up. I'm trying to think of the order of where we're at. November 20th is Suicide Loss Survivors Day that's put on by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I think we have the link to that website. Ours here in Tampa Bay is virtual, but Rob, I think that link is on there for AFSP. I don't know how I wrote it on there, but you can go to the American Foundation, right there, and you can find, well, that one is actually the Out of the Darkness Walk. I think when this airs, we'll have finished that this morning. But the Suicide Loss Survivors Day, you can link in. Maybe it didn't do the link right. But anyways, go to their website, find what they're doing for your location. Like I said, we're virtual here in Tampa Bay again this year. I can't remember the times. I think it's like from 10 to 2 or something.
It's usually about when they are. They try to do it like in the morning, not so early in the morning that people are like, I need my cup of coffee.
Right.
But also not. I mean, we're getting into cooler for Florida. But we're getting into cooler weather, so it's we try. I want to say I find a lot of the events make the attempt to be done, noonish too,
Right.
so it beats the
Right.
heat, and it still allows you to have some time to enjoy the rest of
the day.
Yeah.
And International Suicide Loss Survivors Day is always the Saturday before Thanksgiving. So that's something to kind of keep in mind and remember. But I don't know what they're doing across the country. It may depend on your area, but again, it's virtual here this year. So, and really right now it's, I don't know how to even word it, but it's really important because we got another reminder this week.
Suicide sucks. I mean, I don't know if it's even appropriate for me to say that on air. But all right, I can do this. I can do this.
And I didn't get a new box of tissues.
That's okay. I can do this. You know, it's strange when you meet people and you are just immediately, drawn to that person, and you get to know this person and become familiar with it. And as I explain what I'm talking about, there's going to be a couple of terms that I use that I don't typically use, and it'll make sense here in a moment. But I don't use the word boyfriend. It's something about that word, and I've been single forever. I'm not anymore. But the guy that I'm dating, like I said, we loosely use the term. I used to call him my no label because I don't do labels. But anyway, just for clarity's sake, my boyfriend is a mentalist, which, people ask, what's a mentalist? And it's really hard to explain what a mentalist is. So, we say comedy mind reader is what, when, he's out performing, it's like, comedy mind reader, Tampa Bay's #1 mentalist. Well, his name is Greg, and he's going to chuckle because I'm talking about him, on the show. And every once in a while, I was like, I talked about you on the show today, and he knew
He'll be good with it.
Yeah, this one he's going to be good with. So, a couple of weeks ago, I went to Orlando to see it was a comedy show, and during the show, there was the host, there was a guest star, a feature, and the headliner. And the host, his name is Eddie. Eddie and Greg have been friends for a long time. They used to do a show. It's called Inappropriate Mind Games. So it was him and a couple other people. And the guest star, was a woman. Her name was Shannon. Really, funny lady. Greg was the feature, and the headliner was a gentleman by the name of Sid. His stage name was Sid Savage. His real name was Carl. And as watching the weeks leading up to the show, where the four of them would meet and get the show together, and talk about this is how things are going to go. So the night I go up, obviously to support the show, and Sid was the headliner. And I just remember as I'm sitting there, at one point during the show, he's like, he needs a volunteer. So he points to me, and I'm thinking to myself, like, really, dude? I'm connected to the mentalist. But it was all in good fun. It's like, oh, you're really going to pull the mentalist girlfriend up on stage
Right.
with the guy that just was on stage right before you, because it was Eddie was on this, and it was Shannon, then it was Greg, then it was Sid. And so he did this thing where he pounds a nail into his nose, and it makes it look like he's pounding nails. But anyway, he was like, show everybody this is a nail, and I was like, okay. I said, I'm showing her. It's like, this is a real nail. I want you to show everybody. This is a hammer, and he talks about the weight of the hammer. It's like, yeah, this is a real hammer. And, he puts this nail in his nostril, and he, hammers it in. Of course, I don't know how he does this, and he pulls the nail out, and it's like, it's this real nail. So when it was all over, that's Sid. So when it was all over, and Rob, if you can leave that up for just a couple minutes, if you don't mind, just because. When it was all over, he gives me this button, and this button says, "I nailed a clown." And it was like, so I mean, I'm gonna keep, but anyway, Greg was, here, for the weekend, and I'm out in the garage and I'm doing something, and Greg comes out into the garage and he looks at me and he says, "I have some bad news." I wasn't prepared for what he was going to tell me. And it's like, I think of bad news. I'm thinking, okay, it's like 2 precocious 11-year-olds running around my house. All right, Rob, you can take it down just for a sec, I guess. I might have you put it back up just because. But anyway, I'm thinking he's going to tell me that, the kids broke a plate, or that, he was, he just burnt something in the kitchen, or, the boys had just did something. But he looks at me, he says, "Sid's not with us anymore." And I'm like, the hell, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean Sid's? And, this was, the 30th, so the day right before Halloween. And he goes, Eddie just called me. And he says they found Sid, that he'd hung himself at his farm. And I'm looking at him, I was like, what? I'm like floored, because it was just like the day before or 2 days before, he's on his Facebook page. And I mean, I actually want to pull it up, but he says, "Today is not a good mental health day. What do you guys do when you're depressed?" And, some people were, put in, and I looked at him and I said, "Hey, buddy, as your mental health professional friend, or something like that, acknowledging that you are struggling is half the battle, and I was like, I always phone a friend. And then I said, love and hugs to you. And I was like, it's okay. And so this was like 2 days before, Greg comes out and looks at me and says he's gone. And, a part of me is sitting back like, I go into that, thing that we do. Why didn't I call him? Why didn't I message him? Why didn't I say, hey, dude, what's going on? Because what was weird, funny, and I don't mean funny in a humorous way, but that morning, I'm, looking at, Facebook, he did a video because, like I said, he's owned a farm, and he made these jellies out of jalapeno peppers, different peppers. And, and then, of course, there's, merchandise that, he sells, it's like his hot peppers is, as Carl. And then there's the merchandise that he, does as Sid Savage. He's doing this video clip, of himself talking. And he's like, hey, I'm going to talk merch today, and he's like, here's, if you want, what was it, an air freshener for your car, or, and he picks up this pin that says, I nailed the clown. And he was like, no, I usually do these when I'm on stage and I'm bringing people up, and I'm sitting there chuckling like, I know, Sid, I have one of those pins. But he says, we ordered them, and then of course COVID happened. He was like, now I've got a billion of these, He was like, so, if you want to buy one of these pins, you can buy these pins, and, the T-shirts and everything was like that. And I'm watching, because one of the first things I'm like looking, and I was like, Sid, in, I'm not looking at Sid Savage anymore with the makeup. I'm looking at Carl, you know, with no makeup on, and you know, what you saw, you know, the picture that Rob had up for us, you know, of Sid and I, that was at the show. That was the last show he did. And I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, I was one of the last people to be on stage with him. And, you know, because he was talking, you know, when this was all over, you know, they do at the end of the shows, where he was going to be performing it next. And so I'm thinking, you know, as I'm looking at this pin, you know, now I'm like, I really, really, really need to make sure that I put this pin somewhere, you know, where it's, you know, safe, it's not lost, because that pin went directly from, you know, his hand to mine. You know, I did a video clip, actually filmed, you know, when I was on stage with him. You know, like, this is the nail, it's real. This is the hammer, it's real. And the look on my face is he's, you know, because, like, you know, with Greg, you know, it was funny because after the show, you know, if I kind of rewind back to that night of the show, one of the women that were in the audience, you know, she walks over to me and she, you know, was asking about Greg. She goes, "That's your husband, right?" I was like, "Oh, no, we're not married." We're not, yeah, we're not married. You know, in no disrespect, you know, Greg, no disrespect. I mean, he knows that. Because we're both like, "No, he's not my husband." I said, you know, you know, we're in a relationship, you know, but no, we're not married. And, you know, but, you know, it's like, how does he do it? You know, like, how do they do this? And so, you know, the thing with Sid is I'm looking at him like, how does he do this? Where in my mind, I'm like, you know, just watching, you know, some of the things that he did, you know, some, you know, are appropriate to do. And then he has, you know, his signature, how he closes out, you know, all of his shows. And I was like, you know, how to describe, you know, what he does, you know, it's not really G-rated or PG-rated something.
Okay.
But anyway, you know, I'm sitting back and I was like, this look on my face as he's, you know, tapping his nail.
I could.
He's like, and I'm like looking at him, I'm like, how's he doing that? You know, so of course, when it's all over, you know, we're, you know, chatting after the show, and I give him a hug, you know, and I just remember saying to him, like, I want to say, probably one of the last things I said to him was, oh my gosh, you know, I love your show, you know, or I love what you do. I said, it's just so amazing. And I said, but of course, you know, I'm partial to The Mentalist. You know, like, I love you, but yeah, you know, they got the, you know, I'm with The Mentalist stuff. You know, and we kind of chuckled, you know, but that, you know, comedy, you know, Mentalist, you know, it's like comedy, you know, comedic magic, I was going to call it. You know, that whole group was so tight knit, and I think you know, as Eddie was talking, as Eddie was talking to Greg, you know, called Greg and said, you know, my God, Sid's gone. You know, Greg was like, I just talked to him, you know, and you know, there's like, when, so, you know, it's like, well, when it was Greg, you know, like, I was one of the last people to go on stage with him. You know, Greg was probably one of the last people to communicate with him. And I think, you know, what they said, what happened was, you know, you had that post where he's like, you know, this is not a good mental health day. Someone, I think I tried to reach out to him, and, you know, he didn't respond back. And so someone went to the farm and found him. And, you know, it got me to thinking, you know, as we were, you know, prepping for this show, you know, and it was like, you know, what do we want to talk about? And, you know, I don't think I ever, like, equated Halloween, you know, with suicide, you know, or let me rephrase that, what I'm trying to say here. You know, whenever we think about, you know, mental health, suicide, and what holidays are for lack of a better word, we'll call them the red flag holidays for, for people who are, maybe suffering from depression or suicide. You always think Thanksgiving and Christmas, like the November, December time frame, and, sometimes even going into the new year, it's like, oh, let's make sure that, people are connected, and have resources and services for those particular holidays because those tend to be peak. And I'm sitting back thinking, wait a minute, Sid, as we called him, Sid took his life the day before Halloween. And so now I'm sitting back thinking, Halloween, But then, when we started this, Aiden took his life on Valentine's Day. So, I think, as I look at, Aiden Valentine's Day, now Sid with, Halloween, and of course we throw in the traditional, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the festive time. I think it was important, for us to highlight that there is no specific, yes, statistically, it might be here and here. At the same time, guys, we lose somebody often when we least expect it. And I'm like, I just remember posting, just, and I thank you because I remember it's like, if I timeline it right, it's like I posted it and it was within a few minutes, if I'm thinking right, that you text me.
Probably, yeah, because I opened my phone and I was like, what?
Or, and it was like, are you okay?
And then I'm just like, ah.
Like.
And I figured Greg was probably here, but I'm like, I live close enough, But it's, I was shocked.
You.
I couldn't imagine. I just went in, because that's how you started it out. Suicide sucks. And, and especially, after doing the show as long as we've been doing it and, talking all the different realms about it, and then it still happens.
To experience a loss.
Again.
But, but to experience an actual loss, what? This was, Saturday. So this past, this past Saturday, so to experience a suicide loss Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 days, before we're taping, and I'm like, and I had to talk, it was like, well, I knew, we were going to talk about it. At the same time, it's like, wow, did this just, of course in my head I'm like, did this throw a monkey wrench in what we're doing? And of course the answer is no, it didn't. It's like, guys, this is just, like throws it into, like context. And, I remember as I was, of course his Facebook page blew up, where, rest in peace, it's like the light is gone and, et cetera, et cetera. I forget what I posted, because I didn't know, I didn't know him very long. It's not like, this was a, years long or decades long friendship. But at the same time, it really doesn't matter. And I sit back and I'm like, what the friendship would have turned into, and like, after the show, because of course they all do like, different things, so Sid's act, I hate to use the word act, but in the entertainment realm, it's an act. Sid's act is a little bit different than what Greg does, but at the same time there's a few similarities. And I remember after the show, so I said it was in Orlando. Greg lives in Kissimmee, like in the Orlando area. Of course, I live here in Newport Ritchie. And so, we traveled to, usually on the weekends, I'll travel there, he'll travel here. But I remember after the show, Greg and I were talking, and he was like, hey, guess who called me? And I was like, no, who? And he goes, Sid. And I'm like, really? And he was like, yeah. So they were, doing like this comparing notes on, hey, I liked what you did. Let me, let me get, that's some pointers. But I wonder if, some of what you're doing I could incorporate into what I'm doing and vice versa. But again, to, just from that last, to, well, now it's a week ago Friday, going to, that show, because it was right as I came back from my last vacation, and I came back from the cabin, I got back that, morning, and that evening I was, no, it was no, it had to be Saturday, let me take that back. See, my brain is just so, like it's going a mile a minute now, so to a degree, guys, you are seeing like in real time, when your world is rocked by a loss, how, let me, give me a moment, let me get my brain together here. Because I am still trying to wrap my brain right, because it had to be Saturday, because we did the Stomp Out Suicide that morning.
Right.
And then Guild Dogs was that afternoon.
And you went over.
And I went to Orlando. Right. So you figured that day. So it was a week ago.
A week ago, yeah.
So last week I'm in Orlando watching Sid on stage do his, act. And, he's performed nationally. So it's not like, he hasn't, been, in done other places. To a week later, 2 weeks later, he's gone. He's gone, and I took for a moment afterwards, and I started scrolling, doing a back look on his page, and seeing sprinkled throughout certain certain time frames, that there was a struggle with depression. And I'm like, not that I think I'm the end all be all do all, but Carl, it's what it's there is a weirdness here, because Sid's given name is Carl, and then my son is Carl. So for the sake of conversation, I'm going to call Sid, and Carl my son. But Carl called me, and he's like, Mom, are you okay? And I want to say it was either right that same day. Yeah, it was the same day or the day after. No, it was the same day, because I hadn't taken the boys out trick-or-treating. Well, Mom, are you okay? And I just remember telling him, I'm trying to wrap my arms around this. And when I looked at him and said, I should have called him. I should have just, and immediately Carl was like, stop. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. And, and I think we've talked, actually, I think we've talked about this, where, there's, this side of my brain that is, a regular human, just kind of doing regular human stuff. And then there's this side of my brain that is in, work mode, that, you're an MHP, you're a mental health professional, this is your job. And, the two collide sometimes. And so, and I remember telling, Carl, I said, son, I don't want you to, when I say I should have called him, understand that I am coming from that, rational side. Let's just say if we do this rational, not rational, brain, and mind you, abstractly or very superficially. But that rational side of me was like, no, I get it. Would it have made a difference? We never know. Much like, when Carl had said, when we asked him, about Aiden, would it have been, would we have prevented it, until the next day? Would he have done it the day after? Would he have done it the next week, the next year? We don't know. And I'm sure that, everybody is, like from what I noticed, from that community, people are like, did we miss the signs? Why was, why wasn't anybody with him? Why was it alone? I was like, it really didn't matter. If obviously, this was, planned, may not be right now. It's probably later on, I mean, we hope that we're able to, I think it's important to note that where, the mission is to save someone from ending their lives, to save someone, from, you believing that that is the only strategy or coping skill available to them. Your life is worth living. Come on, you've gotten this far, and all of the, the talking points that we use. How did you cope before? This is not the first time you've been down. How did you get through that? Your life is worth living. I always tell them, don't do the guilt trip, like think about those you're going to leave behind, because if that's, if I'm in that state, I'm not.
Well,
really,
that's not what they're thinking
yeah,
about.
I'm not thinking about it right now. They're not suffering. I am. They'll get over losing, or I'm so insignificant that they're not really going to care, kind of thing.
Or they're going to be better off without me.
Exactly. I'm not a burden anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's going to have to listen to me anymore, or, however you put it. But again, it was like, to know, that we, with the show, with, what we do in our, perspective off, out of the studio, respective lives, you're not going to be, we're not able to save everybody. We're not able to prevent every suicide. What's important is that, we acknowledge that it was, it was their choice, despite any best efforts that anybody could have done. There was a, determination to, to do this. And I think, with Sid, I'm sitting back and, not only, the loss of, this, amazingly talented human being. I love the scrunch faces that he does, when he's in makeup. But, when you see him, without the face paint and whatnot, I'm just going to acknowledge that. Sid was gorgeous. He was he was an amazingly handsome individual. And I'm like, to look at this, this beautiful soul, this light that is out now. I just remember, saying in my tribute to him, do me a favor and find Patrick. And, between the two of you, I know that the laughter is not going to end. But yeah, this has been, a sucky, tough week, leading up to today, and losing, my new friend.
Yeah, and with, like you said, the holidays and, just like we've said, suicide doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate for the time of year, the holidays, or, they, say that, like you said before, Christmas and New Year's and, Thanksgiving time is difficult and there's high rates of suicide. But in reality, the highest rates of suicide during the year are in the spring. The nicest time of year, everything is coming out new and blooming, and it's beautiful out, and that's when my husband took his life. And he was a land surveyor, and he loved that time of year because he loved working outside. It wasn't super cold, which we don't get super cold for that long anyways, but it's not the heat of the summer, and the summers were getting hotter, it seems like, the last several years. So it was like his favorite time of year. And I remember when he passed away, those weeks afterwards, and Bobby had the most beautiful blue eyes. The sky was so blue, no clouds. It was just gorgeous. And when we started doing events, I didn't at first, but then I thought, I'm going to take a picture of Bobby with me and have it on the table. So it kind of helps people relate, puts a face to the foundation.
Absolutely.
And, every single time that and it's only been a few times because we haven't, it sounds like we've done a lot of events because we have been very busy, but the events that we have done, more than one person comes up, and they'll ask and show them the picture, and they're like, "Oh, he was so handsome." Yeah, he was. And you wouldn't have thought, meeting him, that this would be how it ended. One of his boss's daughter said that he was the guy who always came in the office, that was always laughing and happy and, making everybody else happy. And never one day did he ever come in a bad mood, whether it be at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, and you just, and we've done the same thing, and we've talked about it, on the show several times, like with Aiden. If we would have stopped it that day, would it have happened another day?
Who's to say it would have been another, day? And talking about Bobby and his presentation in the office. I think back to that show in Orlando. I remember as everybody was setting up for the show. We got there a little early. Because the venue was one where, you order food, so, we were eating dinner and whatnot. And, so we're sitting back, ordering our food and, watching, everybody, put their, stuff strategically, like, the stuff that Shannon was going to use, that's over here because, she was up first. Eddie was, the MC on the mic, and Eddie's hilarious, just absolutely hilarious. And then of course watching Greg, he's got his stuff over wherever he needs to stage up at, and I'm watching Sid walking back and forth, and I'm just watching because he's like I said, I don't know if you can tell from the picture, is small in stature. He was, I don't call him a little itty bitty guy, but he's kind of like, like you're petite. Just say you are petite. you could, Sid could probably borrow your clothing. It
Oh,
was like,
he'd be little for a guy.
but yeah, I mean, he wasn't like a huge guy. But I'm sitting back watching this guy like, bounce back and forth as he's getting ready. And, he didn't have his war paint on, his war paint on yet. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, he goes back and he comes in and he's got, I said, hopefully I have to find it. I have another picture. I don't know if Rob has the picture with the four of them. Did we
Now,
send
the
that?
only one I had and the one that you sent me, I couldn't get off my email, so I took it off your Facebook page.
Gotcha.
That
Okay.
was, the only ones that I saw quickly because,
Getting it together for here.
Yeah.
But so he comes in and he's got like maybe for another
we'll
show.
show it on show it on another show. Yeah.
But he's got his mismatched clown socks on and the little knickers and he's got his war paint on and I was like, that's absolutely amazing. So I think he does his own makeup and I was like looking at just like wow. I wish. Of course, hindsight being 20/20. I wish I would have filmed the entire show from here to there. But the beauty of having social media and whatnot, that he does have a Sid Savage page, that you can go back and look at, this stuff. But, again, it's like, had I known that was going to be his last performance.
Well, that's just it with this. We never know. Bobby had talked to one of his high school friends the day before, and he was supposed to have lunch with him that afternoon. And he tried calling Bobby, and Bobby wasn't answering. And he came down to the house because they were supposed to have lunch, and it was cars everywhere. It was just... That wasn't what he expected to come down to. It was going to be, hey, dude, we're supposed to go out to lunch. Why aren't you answering your phone? And I had just got Bobby a cell phone like the Saturday before that because I was supposed to go out of town to visit my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And you just...
you never know.
And again, this time of year can be really tough for a lot of people, and it's not just what we're talking about. Grief for anyone this time of year is difficult, and sometimes it can be exacerbated, especially if you live up north and you can't go outside. You don't have the sunshine we have. We're fortunate, we have fairly good weather all year round, even in the wintertime, and it's sunshiny here most of the time, except for when we have a hurricane. And that's not hurricane season, thank goodness. But it's really important for people to stay connected with each other.
It is, and as I'm sitting back, my mind is reeling, with losing Sid, but again, when you're talking about grief and loss, because like a couple of days before Sid, a good friend of mine, actually somebody I graduated high school with, lost her husband. Mm-hmm. And, so for me, it's like, Gene, was his name, my friend's husband, let's just say my friend's husband, passed on Tuesday. So it was Tuesday, and I was like just with them, like the weekend before, and say if I'm visiting them on Sunday, and saying hi to him, and dude, I'm pulling for you, and then 2 days later I get a call that I'm glad you were able to see him. He's gone. What? And then a week later, I'm in my garage and Sid's not here anymore, and I'm like, what? And you ask, like, why? How are you still standing? But at the same time, whether it is, those of us who are left behind, who are dealing with the loss of people in it life, whether it's, friends or loved ones, you know, or individuals themselves. It is important to, reach out and, you know, hey, come on over, hey, dinner at my house, or hey, let's just go hang out. Like I, said to Sid, phone a friend, if you need to. Because, what I find with the holidays, is that sense of loneliness. And, I don't have anybody to, spend it with. I'm going to be by myself. Do I really want to, connect with anybody?
But even still, you can still have that being around people and being around family.
You can, but I think in my opinion, what I find is, I'd be immensely lonely and be in a crowd, dealing, thinking about my own, journey with depression. But yeah, I'm a crowd and my head is wrapped around, it's like I think for me, I should just plan my exit strategy. And I don't mean exit in terms of, there was that time where exit strategy really meant exit strategy. But yeah, you're planning like, how do I get away from it because I'm not comfortable in this setting. At the same time, there is that sense of relief and that I'm glad I'm not by myself. And, and as we said, here, never knowing what someone's going through, it doesn't hurt to look at somebody and say, are you okay? I stopped counting how many times, in my own personal life that I've, had somebody look at me, are you okay? And only to look at them and, is it, was it really that obvious? No, I'm not. Thank you. Or, having, myself personally ask somebody else, are you okay? Or listening to stories, with people saying, what saved me is having someone show me that they cared, or, at least, taking interest or acknowledging that something was going on.
Just asking. I had a client last week pick up some artwork, and we were standing out talking and about a lot of different stuff. And she asked me that, how are you doing? Are you okay? And I was like, for the most part, yeah, but then for the most part, not. You know what she told me? She said, I can see the sadness in your eyes.
Oh yeah, it's weird because
even though you think you're faking it.
Well, what I tell people, and I don't, if this is true for you, and but I guess for me the takeaway from that is, I can see the sadness in your face, because I tell people a lot of times, I don't know what's going on here.
Right.
Like, people will look at me and it's like, oh, you look, what are you angry about, or what are you okay, or are you upset? And I'm like, I'm fine, which. That's, you don't say I'm fine. That's like a big red flag.
That's a red
that's
flag,
the
yeah.
biggest red flag. I'm fine. When I was in the military, when people was like, oh, when I say I'm fine, we're like, really? I was like, no, that is the key word. And you're like, what do you mean? And I want to make sure I get the words correctly. Because I'm going back some, umpteen, 1,000 years. But it's like when I say I'm fine, what I'm really saying is I'm effed up. Okay, you can fill in the blank. I think that I was, either, insecure, insignificant. The N, I think they said, was like neurotic, and I forget what the E was. And but each term was like, edgy. And I think edgy was not it. But there was another, one of those dark terms that, was E. And it was like, aha. So every time I hear someone say, I'm fine, I'm like, oh, you really? All right, so what's really going on?
That's absolutely true, because that's the easiest thing to say when you're not.
Right. And I'm blessed that, through, this loss and everything else, where, a lot of my friends, and, again, I think of, And I'm thinking there's a couple of women from my graduating class specifically. A couple of friends back in the Midwest. Does it ever end for you? Like how much more? Like how much more can you take? Like what's going on? And it's like it's not all about me. It is not all about me. However, having not only this platform, but our voices, to, illustrate, guys, this is real. This, we're losing real people. So, please, those hotline numbers that we show, at the end of every show, they're there. Put them in your phone, reach out. It doesn't hurt, to call. I mean, again, I've used the veterans line a couple times myself, and, you never know when, as you're using it, you might be saving somebody else's life, or having that one person that, is there to save yours.
It's true. I encourage everybody to do that every time I go and speak at an event. Please take out your phone. You don't know, and it's just going to take that one person to care.
So, I mean, just remember, guys.
There's always hope,
There is.
and that's true for sure. Thank you.